I've always loved the art of Warhammer Fantasy, but now being armed with a 3D printer, I can really bring all of it to life. So come with me today and we are going to go on a journey to learn the mastery of rock and stone. My name's Sam and welcome back to West Coast Minis. Now first up, I just want to give some praise to the STL creator, Fabricators Lair. You can go and have a look at the rest of their stuff on my mini factory, but this model was free, so I went about printing a couple of copies. It came out perfectly and they offer supported and unsupported variants of both FDM and resin. Now I have mirrored these models in Bamboo Lab, however they are very much the same. They've got the same weathering but in the same areas, so I'm going to use a bit of Milliput and some little techniques to create a little bit more differentiation between these models. A good example of this is on the backs of the cloaks. You can see there's a crack down it, which is a really good feature, but for variation we're going to remove one of these cracks. So just like tiling a bathroom, push some Milliput into the crack and then you want to remove the excess from the top. We can use our finger just to wipe this down and make it smooth. We can also increase variation by adding Milliput to the model and then damaging that to increase the weathering in certain areas. Aside from using Milliput, we can also use a file or a drill or something like that just to literally carve up the plastic. That will create even more variation. Now we're going to do a few steps to take this away from a 3D printed FDM model to something that looks like rough hewn stone. So the first one is by adding some of this instant filler with a bit of water, turn that into a paste, and then from there we're going to brush this all over the model. This is just going to change the texture, and it's also going to move into anywhere we've got any kind of mould lines to prevent that effect and just make it look a lot more natural and a lot more kind of cohesive. We can continue to increase variation between the models with a bit of texture paint. I like to use Typhus Corrosion, but you know, Stolen Mud, Astro Granite, all of those kind of things would work perfectly. With the stone prepped, it's finally time to move into painting. I like to base stone with Steel Legion Drab, but any kind of light brown will really do just to set an initial tone. Once the first coat's down, you'll be able to see the texture all across the model. Now bear with me because initially this is going to look rubbish, so we use a blue-grey all over the model in swirly lines to create a kind of sediment. Once we do the dry brushes over, this will hide this, but it adds a depth of detail. You can avoid this step, but the key point is that texture, as mentioned before. Now we're going to bring this texture up using subsequent dry brushes. Initially I'll use Baneblade Brown and then I'll move on to Rakarth Flesh. If you don't have either of these, just mix in some of your khaki brown with like a pale sand and work up to that pale sand. Now if you wanted a arid dry stone fit for Khemri, you could just stop here. But we're going more for a kind of granite or hewn granite effect. So we're going to slather Nuln Oil all over the model. Really get it in there, cover everything. The second wash is a little bit more sporadic, using Agrax or any real brown shade really, just to add a bit more variation to the model. Again in various different locations just to increase the shade and the colouring. And finally, just to generate a bit of moss, we'll have areas of green, so any kind of green shade. I'm using a Thonian camo shade, but as mentioned, any real green shade. We're working on the lower areas of the model. That said, to increase the contrast, we can kind of just go all over. Now, by all means, you could 100% stop here. The stone effect is complete, and I'm really happy with it. It's a really messy way of getting a realistic stone effect. I like my armies above ground, however, so let's add a bit of snow to this, see how that looks. Before I started this, I wanted to baseline myself by looking at some real life examples. I think the key point that you can see here is, notice how the snow doesn't swaddle the statue, it just kind of covers it from above. So that's how I wanted to approach this. To To achieve this effect, I'm going to use my absolute trade not secret of instant filler, but instead of watering it down a lot, we want it to remain pretty solid so it looks like a good dump of snow. So from there, we're just going to be hammering it on top of the model. When I'm looking at the model for areas that need snow, I'm just trying to keep my eye line above the model and fill the required areas. So the camera, as you can see it now, is kind of the perfect position to understand how I'm trying to achieve that effect of keeping a dump of snow above the model. Anything to the side or anything that I can't see from looking above won't be getting any snow, just because we are trying as much as we possibly can to keep in tandem with the source image. And with that, I think we are just about done. So let's finish up here and have a look at the completed statues. So these have come out exactly how I wanted them to. Really happy with how the snow effect looks. Could even do with a bit more of a larger dump of snow. And the most important thing for me is they look perfect next to a dwarf warrior. More of that to come. With that in mind, then you can see here with 25mm bases, it ranks up really nice as a unit filler. Clearly we need to fight those goblins off of that first. If it's not abundantly clear, I am chomping at the bit to start a dwarf army, but really happy with these. That said, there's plenty more terrain videos to come. I've 3D printed out an entire empire village with fortifications, and that's not even everything. I've also picked up something that I wanted when I was a kid, the fortified manor of the empire set, so stand by for all of that. If you want to watch all of that, please subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you've liked this, please leave a comment and drop a like so that the video gets a bit of traction. Thank you for stopping in, and I'll see you guys on the next one.